It was June 6, 1944, and perhaps the most audacious plan in human history was about to unfold. It involved 850,000 personnel from 3 different nations, 11,000 aircraft, 6,000 types of boats, 150,000 land vehicles. And the leader for this plan was put in place just a mere 6 months prior to it launching. His name was General Dwight D. Eisenhower, and all that hung in the balance was liberty for half the globe. Of course, the battle I'm talking about is the famous World War II invasion of Normandy. The reason I'm sharing this with you today is because this history lesson shows us that an audacious plan can effectively be moved in and put into action. And that's what I'm going to talk to you about today, is how to turn your plan into action. I'm going to work on the assumption that you've already got the planning process figured out and you've done a great job of that. And now it's game day and we have to put that plan into action. I'm going to give you 3 simple tips that I learned while working in the Marine Corps. And these 3 simple tips should not be taken for granted despite their simplicity. So let's get ready and jump right in. The first tip I want to give you is communication. Communication is paramount. So here's a few recommendations for your communication. It has to be redundant. Let's pretend on game day, I'm going to start the day off with the morning verbal brief to my teams. But in addition to that verbal brief of what we're doing for the day, I'm going to hand out index cards that have instructions written to each respective team. So now I've got redundant communication. I have communication both verbally and in writing. And whenever it's possible and practical, you should do that. Have instruction both verbally and back it up with instruction in writing. That way, when there's any questions, they can reference the writing. Additionally, communication has to be two-way. It can't just be me communicating to them, but they also have to be able to communicate with me, which means I need a comm plan. People have to understand, how do we prefer to communicate? Is it going to be cell phone? Is it going to be radios or walkie-talkies? If I don't have one, who can I go to? Where are they at for me to use that radio? Maybe we're not using electronic communication at all. Maybe it's just going to be in-person conversations. Where are you going to be at? How often are you going to be stopping by my station? That way I know how to communicate. Simple tip number 2, relationships. Now, I could go down a traditional conversation about chain of command. We need to make sure that we have people in charge of people and break that into smaller teams and do delegation and those things. But instead, I think most of you have probably already heard lessons about that. I'm going to bring something new to the table. This is a lesson I got from a retired Marine Corps colonel, and it's an acronym called IPOD. The I in IPOD stands for idea people. Your idea people are the folks that help get the plan conceptualized, dreamed up. Or on game day, maybe there's something we haven't thought about. They're going to be your problem solvers that think of something new to take care of that. Then there's your planners. Your planners are the ones that take those dreams from the idea people out of that little thought bubble and put it down on paper. They're asking where, when, why, how are we going to do this so that we can create instructions to pass on to our workers. Next, there's organizers, the O in iPod. Your organizers may or may not be organic to your team, but they're going to help connect the dots. They're going to help build bridges. They're like liaisons for you often. There might be another organization separate from yours that you're partnering with. That middleman is an organizer. Your workers might be carrying away and doing their jobs, but they're going to need food brought to them. That guy that's coordinating that food and setting all that up, he's an organizer. Your organizers are not necessarily doing the direct work of accomplishing the mission, but they are facilitating and supporting those workers. Next is the D, doers. These workers I've been talking about, they are the doers. They are the worker bees. These guys are the workhorses that are out there actually putting their boots on the ground and making it happen to accomplish the mission. Why is this iPod concept so important? These roles, the IPOD roles, may overlap, and that's fine, but what's crucial is on game day, something's going to go wrong. And when you understand the iPod relationship, you know who you should go to resolve that particular problem. It might be a challenge that you need a new solution for. You're going to go to the idea people. Maybe your workers don't understand some instructions. We got to talk to the planners. Understanding these iPod relationships will really help you grease the skids on game day. When things go wrong, you know who to go to. Your third and final simple tip is resourcing your team. Now, usually we think about resourcing of giving supplies. If I use the analogy, let's say I have a person that's going to help me paint a house. I've got to get them paintbrushes and paint. I have to give them the supplies, or at least the money to get the supplies. But that's only the start. To resource your team means so much more. That person painting the house might need helpers. I might need to provide more people to them, more manpower. That is another way I'm going to resource them. The other thing that I need to think about is logistics. Does my team know when they're going to get fed or where the food's coming from? Maybe they need to use the restroom and they don't know if they can go inside the house they're painting to use the restroom. Things like that are crucial, and that is part of resourcing your team, is providing that logistical support. But perhaps the most important resource is empowerment. My team leaders need to be empowered to make decisions. They need to have the authority and the discretion to deal with challenges as they come up. If they have to stop what they're doing every time there's a question and come to me as the leader, that's really going to slow things down. I have to put good people in place and empower them so that they can move forward without having to stop every 5 seconds to get answers. You have to resource your team effectively. These are the 3 simple tips I've given you today. Communication and suggestions about it, iPod relationships, and resources above and beyond just supplies. With these 3 simple tips and the good plan that you've built, I have no doubt that you'll be able to conquer your Normandy.